Guys, we're not used to talking to you guys outside of Sun Life. What are we supposed to talk about?
I know, it's super weird.
Have we ever met outside of that table before?
No.
I saw him once at Collective.
It was like a fish out of water.
I feel like we should have bought smoothies or something, or marches.
Next time we'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we were saying this episode has been a long time coming.
Yes.
We love to give the listener just like a little bit of insight of how we connected with our guests. So we just, for whatever, I think somehow you were coming up in our algorithm on Instagram like 6 months ago. So we started following you because we do like a lot of running and weight training, and we're trying to get more into the movement and the mobility side of things. So I think your feed started getting recommended to us. Cool. And then we also started seeing all these Vivo ads and Ketone IQ ads. And we were like, oh, they must just like own these brands too. And then our mutual friend Khalil, we met at that table at Sun Life the first time we were ever pitching him on Noble and giving him some product. Then we gave you some to try. And we were like, it's always so cool when you follow someone on social media, but then not only do they live up to their reputation, they even exceed that too. And you've just been some of our favorite people in Austin. And now we're honored to like be friends with you and now have you as like equity holders in the Noble business. It's really cool, that progression in a short period of time.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're so excited.
That gives me the butterflies type feeling, which we always go by our gut feeling most of the time. So when I feel that, I know it's right. I had it the other day in a meeting, and when we first walked into the content dojo, which we'll go into later, but how we connected was, we heard like rumblings, like little talks about like the meat mafia, like before we even met you guys. And I was like, fuck, that's a really cool name.
Yeah.
I was like, those guys need to like trademark that immediately. And never change it. And we like to call Khalil the connector, because anytime we sit at that table at Sun Life, he's connecting us to someone or the people around him to someone that he's very selfless into what he does, what he gives, and who he connects people with. So, what he's done for us in the short period of time that we've been in Austin is incredible. So we'll always, be grateful for him. And of course, he connected. He started mentioning, these guys. He gets pitched a lot. Like sitting with him for like a year and a half at Sun Life. We've and you know what it's like at that table. People come and they'll pitch an idea, and he'll be like, okay, and they come and go. And yeah, he was mentioning like, oh, these guys. I'm meeting these meat mafia guys today, and I think people had heard other acquaintances of ours and friends had heard of you too, from your various guests that have been on. So we just happened to be there at the same time, of course.
Yeah, spontaneous.
Happened to be.
Product.
You're there every day at 11, right?
11 a.m.
11 a.m. sharp.
And it was, you guys are really humble and doing great things. The product you've created, like I've said to you in person, is truly a revolutionary product. It's the best tasting protein shake I've ever had, without ever adding any other ingredients. It's good for you. The name's great, Noble, that's exactly what it is. So it's primal at the same time, but no bullshit as well. Like this isn't like the others. I don't even want to mention his name, but it's not like the other guys who eat testicles, for a living. It's like,
it's the real stuff.
And I like how you guys said, it's sourced in New Zealand, but made in the USA. So as you guys know, anything that's made in the USA is good with me.
Yeah. One of the things about, I feel like this whole dynamic is how naturally it's all occurred. And that's, I feel like such a core part of your guys' brand is just like, you guys are movement people, like getting in touch with your body, but then also your guys' content is so genuine and natural. Like you're just watching it and then you can't help just be like, let me just keep scrolling here, because you don't feel like you're being sold anything. You're learning stuff. It's like, it's just such a great, like authentic piece of social media content, which stands out. Like social media is such a, like I saw someone today, I was like, buy this product 10% off. I'm like, ooh, that doesn't, I don't think that works.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's something we always wanted to focus on with the content, is always providing value and, bridging the gap between entertainment and education. That's how we shoot everything. That's, to keep people engaged as well. All of our inspiration, we don't really find any inspiration from like people within the fitness industry. All of our inspiration came from like entrepreneurs doing other things, or like cinema directors and things like that. So we basically started, the way our content looks that way is because we originally intended just to create content that entertained first and entertain people in such a way that they would want to try it for themselves. So when we first started, it was just no speaking, just movement and music. We had our own music producer called Toucan, who we're still very good friends with, but it used to be you couldn't just add music like you can now. And what we didn't want to face is like copyright issues and things like that later on. And his music really matched our style. So shout out to Toucan. He's up in Colorado.
Shout out Toucan.
Yeah. Extremely talented music producer. We had our own albums and everything like that. So,
wow.
Yeah, people really got to know us through that side too, the music side. They saw that we only use this type of music. Like it wasn't lyrics or anything. It was just very, I don't know, it was for everyone. And like everyone could enjoy it.
I think the albums are still on Spotify. It's called The Sounds of Phase 6.
Really?
Yeah, there's 6 volumes as well.
Which is perfect.
Yeah.
That's going to be my new training playlist moving forward, right?
We played at all of our workshops as well.
Yeah.
What type of music is it?
It's kind of like,
I don't know how to describe it.
I would say like almost like trap beats or something like that.
But a bit softer than that.
Yeah, I'm not good on the terminology.
It's tough to describe.
Like really not.
It's like sounds.
Yeah, I'm not, it's
sound.
like, so what we were finding as we were starting like building Phase 6 and figuring out the brand, it was just an idea at the time. But when we did scroll through, social media back in like 2018, anyone who was doing some form of movement, because there was no real need to speak back then. It was all like Instagram had just transferred over from photos to like short form videos. So everyone was just figuring that out. And most people were just doing like workout videos that had music on it. The problem being is like, if you didn't relate to that, like if someone put like rap music, like gangster rap on a video, that might not relate to some people. It might actually swipe away from it if they were like, oh, I can't stand that type of music. Same if it was like country music or things like that.
Got it.
Rave
so we wanted to, or rave, like rave music. So we wanted to create like a neutral music that was almost like the Switzerland of music. Like it was just neutral. Everyone enjoyed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good. I like that.
Yeah.
The Switzerland of music.
I love that. And a huge reason why we wanted to have you both on the show is we feel like the Phase 6 ethos is a perfect, like almost it accompanies the theme of this show really well. And what I mean by that is we do so much talk about nutrition, the food system, what are the right foods you can be eating. Steph, I know we can do a deep dive on that with your nutrition background, which we definitely will.
For sure.
But we've touched a little bit on like strength, mobility, things like that. And that's why we were so excited to bring you on, because you're such experts in those fields. So I think for our listeners, how would you describe what the Phase 6 modality actually is? And maybe you could each give like your own respective journeys of like, how was Phase 6 actually built from your backgrounds?
Oh,
Do you want to go first?
I know it's a loaded question.
So, I mean, let's break down the question, because then we can go into, so basically
where you came from.
Or like the creation of Phase 6. So, I mean, Phase 6 kind of has evolved, and we kind of, the meaning of Phase 6 is evolved throughout the years. So what we originally intended it to be has like kind of evolved to match who we are now. So
Sure.
it's kind of like having a tattoo and it meaning something when in actual fact it probably doesn't. Like all my tattoos, I could probably give you a reason why, but in truth, I just pick them off a wall, and then I could say, oh yeah, I like that because of this. So Phase 6 was started. I don't know how.
So remember when in the very beginning it was going to be you taking over like the fitness side?
Yeah.
And the training side, and I was going to be like the nutrition next to it.
Got it.
That was right in the very beginning. We're like, yeah, okay, so we got these two things. We're just going to pair them together, and it's just like grown dramatically.
Yeah, I don't know if we should go into like the Australia part though, like of why we moved, but we'll do
If
like
you want the
a
long
mini.
story.
We can get into all of it. Let's get into all of it.
We'll do a mini breakdown. So basically, I come from a corporate background, so very business focused, but absolutely soul destroying. So the last job I took that was a corporate job, I basically took it so I could learn how to speak to people in corporate, like how to write the emails, how to, how to conduct myself in that environment. So I always knew how to negotiate, things like that. So it was basically a company that, terrible company. I hate even saying it. Like they used to, it was in London, where I was living at the time, and they used to tear down, poor developments, estates in the UK. They'd ship everyone out, and then they'd build like $1 million properties on top of it.
Wow.
It's just it's disgusting to even talk about. But basically, and the people who would come through, they were obviously multimillionaires. So I had like dealings with them. I would deal with them from the moment they signed the contract until the project was completed, because I was like 3 years ahead and things like that. So I was dealing with them for that. And during that time, I met Steph, because there was it's not really a gym, it's called a leisure center in the UK. It's like, it's terrible. They're like, it's basically like a place where old people go to work out. It's not really like gyms like here, where it's like athletic performance based. Most people who go to these leisure centers in the UK like are retired and things like that. So it's not very inspiring, to say the least. But I met Steph there. And I didn't last much longer after that, because I ended up like waking up one day and I couldn't get out of bed. And I rang Steph and I was like, I literally can't move. And I couldn't figure out why. So I took a month off, kept on seeing the doctors. They kept on doing blood work and things like that. This was one doctor who knew what he was talking about, thank goodness. But because I went to a private one in the UK, and we did all the blood tests for a month, kept on going back to him. And then on like my final visit to him, he goes, you know what, I think you're depressed. And I was like, oh, fuck, I am. So that's what I basically had, like almost like a nervous breakdown from dealing with this job.
Damn.
And I didn't last much longer after that. I'd like to say we mutually parted ways, but it was mostly on their side. But I figured that I had enough in my bank account where I could live off $50 a week, and I'd be okay for like the next 3 years. And that sounded like a much better idea than working. So that's what I did. And then I got my rose tattooed on my hand, so I'd never be accepted for a job like that again. And then did the rest. So, there was no going back. Steph and I really didn't like the life in London. So we decided that we would go to Australia and set up, like, buy a house and get dogs and everything like that.
Yeah, I was in retail, just to backtrack, and I just quit my job, I think before you or after you.
Yeah.
Maybe after you. And you're like, hey, let's just go live in Australia. I was like, okay.
Sounds pretty good.
So again, we didn't really have any money to do that either. So my credit history was garbage there, and Steph was good,
Fresh,
which is like the common theme in
Your relationship.
save the day.
So we Steph borrowed like £5,000, which must be like $6,500. And that's like, back then
It was a lot back
then. It was
then.
like saying
I was like,
$50,000. Like that's how much it was to us. We're like, yeah, we'll book a ticket to Australia, and hey, how about we stop in Thailand or Bali on the way, to break up the trip. So by the time we got to Australia, we had no money left, and we didn't realize, because I hadn't been back to Australia in like 13 years. So it's pretty much like not being there at all. It's a lifetime, So we get to Australia, this place called the Sunshine Coast, and the rent for a week at a temporary accommodation is like $700, and I think we had $1,000 left. Long story short, we were like trying to find jobs and things like that, and we just couldn't do it, like go back into that type of environment. And every time we did try, it would always like buckle. So we decided to start a few companies. So I started Ubering, but then I started a company on the side that was a private car company. So I would take the clients that I found in Uber and then put them straight onto my number, and then they would call me directly, and then I would get all the money. The problem was the rent for the car was $300, and that's about how much I was earning a week.
Got it.
It didn't really work out.
Steph decided to make this raw cake company, which were delicious. But she was working in the kitchen for like 6 hours, and
I'd make like 16 of these Roreos, I'd call them. They're delicious. All sugar-free, everything gluten-free, dairy-free. And I'd sell them for like 50 Australian dollars. And I remember getting the cash and I was like, oh, thank you so much. Like it was so much to me back then. Crazy.
But there was like, even though like it was a grind and we were struggling and things like that and pretty much didn't have anything to eat, we were much happier than like anything else because you just like figure out ways. So handing over that $50 started to change the paradigm of what like being an entrepreneur is, you know what I mean? So actually making something yourself and passing it over. And then as the months went on, like only a couple months, we started to think, why are we still doing things that we're not passionate about? Like, what are we passionate about? Okay, at the time, we're heavily into unconventional training, mostly kettlebells. And Steph was really into movement as well, like the bodyweight stuff along with the kettlebells. She decided that she didn't want to pursue a career in nutritional therapy. It just wasn't.
Yeah, it's too much effort, you know, like the amount of effort I would put in because I'm like all in or nothing. And I couldn't understand how other people didn't want to be like that. Like if you could feel better, why wouldn't you want to?
Right.
So I got really frustrated. And I was a lot younger back then as well. So I was like, I would get mad at those things. So yeah, I stopped it. I said, I don't want to do it. I'm not enjoying it. It's taking up so much of my time. And then people don't even do what I tell them to do. So it's wasting everyone's time. So I was like, fuck this. I'm just going to go and do movement with Jay.
So the original concept was like, I would handle the training and Steph would handle the nutritional therapy. We didn't have a name or anything like that. There was no real concept. And, you know, we just started putting things out there, like just thinking about things, like thinking for a name. What could this name be called? And this one night I was having a dream and all these like sixes were coming at me and it was like, you know, 6 weeks to notice like other people to notice physical change in your body. And, you know, there's 6 stages of athletic performance, all these things that just kept coming to me. And I was like, I woke up that next morning. I said, Steph, I had this dream of like all these phases of 6. And she goes, that's the name. That's phase 6. So that was the thing. And then we, like the original concept was just starting almost like this like Guns N' Roses type group in that industry, very unconventional, and we'd just travel around together and, you know, hang out and travel the world. And we quickly realized that we didn't have the education that we needed because we were watching all the stuff that we were watching was based in the US. And a dream of mine has always been to live here, as you guys know, is just figuring out a way of how to get here, which was still an impossible dream like then. So, we realized we needed more education. So we had this like chunk of money that we weren't allowed to touch because it was for a house in dire needs, you know what I mean? What we're going to use for the house. So we decided to use that into a 3-month trip around the US. And our plan was to establish Phase 6 as a US-based company, or the perception of, film a year and a half's worth of content in LA, Austin, and New York City, and bring a videographer with us to film the entire thing. And then when we had a year and a half's worth of content, would be able to go work on our visa. And then during that time, no one will really know that we left because it would all be shot in the US. And it took a little longer than that, you know, and the world shut down, things like that. But
it worked though.
Yeah,
everyone thought that we were here and, you know, we live here, we're American.
That's incredible.
When you guys described that, like taking the money that you were going to save to buy a house, like you guys are all in.
Oh yeah.
Like
absolutely.
Fully all in at that point.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that there was another way for you guys to operate to get to what you guys wanted?
This is the really fun thing. Throughout the whole entire experience of us being in Australia or wherever we were, it was always like forward. There was never, like Jay said, we would never go back. So like we would just take what we had in front of us and just like we knew together that this was what needed to happen. So there was no questioning. You know, sometimes you hear with people's stories to success, they like question themselves quite a bit and they may back out and then go back in. It was never ever a question. Like even when we had no money to eat because we spent it on a videographer, we were like still happy about it because we knew that we're heading towards where we want to go. There was no other option. So like taking that money and using it for this trip, we never went to each other, oh, maybe we should save. We didn't want a house. Like we weren't ready to stay in one place. And we knew that maybe Australia wasn't the place to live anyway because it's a little slower and we wanted to like be amongst it, you know, like just keep growing.
Nothing happens. There's no greater opportunities in the world than there is in the United States of America. Like, we've been everywhere and it just doesn't match. And when the concept of phase 6 was, like I said in the beginning, you know, we didn't want to just shoot on our phones. In order for us to
stand out,
to stay true to the vision, we had to film high quality content that was cinematic. And, you know, that's where all like our different passions come in from, like cinema and things like that. So there were moments where we had to choose to pay a videographer or eat a meal. And the videographer was always first. There was times where during that time from the moment we decided we wanted to first come to the United States to set up, be established as a US brand, there was times where we would like celebrate little milestones that we had. And then during our meal, something would come out that we didn't realize was there. And then we didn't have the money to pay for the meal. There'd be like 50 cents in our bank account. So then we'd have to figure out how to pay for that. And even in America, when we were here for the 3 months, you know, we were talking about it all the time. We're driving past, you know, that other Gold's Gym, the laser tag and things like that.
Halfway in Cannes.
Yeah, sometimes in Austin, we didn't have anything, so we'd go to that Starbucks there, and all we'd have enough is for like a packet of almonds.
You know those salted almonds?
That's all we'd have to eat.
Dang.
And then
I'd live off them.
by the time we got to New York, we you know, it was the first time budgeting for something like that. We didn't budget well. So the $35,000 that we had was gone before we even got to New York. So we actually had to borrow money to fly out of New York and get a place to stay, because we'd run out of money. So we literally left in New York City back in the end of 2018, and we needed to leave before our visa expired, our visitor visa.
It was all very
we left with
Can only imagine.
3 months.
3 months, yeah. That's what you get for a visitor's visa. And we left literally with a $1 bill in our pocket, which we still have. Yeah.
You got to save that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it's going to be framed.
It's going up in the dojo, yeah.
That's going to be incredible.
Budgeted to perfection.
Yeah. It's so humbling to hear your origin story too, because it's so easy to just focus on people and like their version of like what an end product is to the outside.
Yeah.
So someone that's looking at your profile, they're like, wow, they have millions of followers. They have all the coolest brands that you could work with. They have this amazing coaching business that they built up, and like the struggle and the pain that you both went through too. We're not talking about like selling off a chunk of your 401k. We're talking about you're so broke you can literally only get almonds from the Starbucks. Like that's unbelievable.
We also didn't. So basically, we didn't have a credit card. So I don't know if you guys know, but basically, if you have a debit card, you can't rent a car.
Oh,
the only way you can rent a
dilemma.
car in the US is from an airport, and you have to have a flight back out.
So we spent more money on
So
that.
when we're in Austin, to drive around, we had to book a flight out for no reason at all other than to rent the car. So that, you know, that would be another $1,000.
We'd just go to LA just because.
Just for a few days.
so we could drive.
Then you have to pay for another Airbnb, come back, rent another car. So, you know, there was lots of times where we didn't actually have a car and we were riding around on scooters.
Oh.
And, you know, like, I was a little smaller back then and my beard was a lot longer. So I can't imagine what people thought of me, like.
Because now we see the people
you know,
who ride the scooters, we're like, oh.
Or just people walking
Look
around, you know, like I can't even imagine what they'd be like, just thinking that I kidnapped Steph or something.
Yeah.
No, I look pretty rough too.
Yeah.
What was the moment of time where you both really felt like, okay, this is working. We can actually really build this thing out?
Oh, man.
I think it was the second time we were in the States when we first released, it was like a PDF program. And we were like, we had no self-confidence. So we're like, oh my God, should we put this program out? It had no video, anything. It was just literally a written up workout. And I remember looking at my Stripe account like the next day, and all these purchases had come through. And I was like, fuck, Jay, we have money? And he was like, oh shit. And we were like earning money every day. And I was like, okay, well, let's just continue going forward. Like,
but I mean, that was after like the heartbreak of getting denied a visa twice the first time. You know what I mean? So after we left in in November 2018, we got back to London, and we were just so depressed of being back there, because being in the US was the first place that we ever felt like we belonged. And there was people who cared about us legitimately. We'd made great connections.
Yeah, all our friends were in the US. We didn't really have friends in London. Like, we didn't connect with anyone.
So we I can't even remember how we paid to come back here, but like a month later in January, because we left on November 30th, and say like just a little more over a month. We came back on January 9th, 2019, stayed for another 3 months. Then during that time, we're like, right, let's just find a lawyer, immigration lawyer, to see what they say. And that was $400 in Austin. Which like we
nothing.
didn't like.
That's not much.
400, but like when you have nothing, when you have nothing, it is like that was $400 that we were spending on other things,
right?
And what we quickly realized, looking back, you can only ever connect the dots backwards. So we realized that she was just one of the people who gave us terrible advice about immigration law during like a 2-year period. She clearly didn't know what we were doing or the concept, and maybe we didn't explain it that well. But her advice was to us, go back to London, apply for a visa called a B1 visa, because we wanted to host workshops and seminars and things like that. So she goes, go apply for a B1 visa or a B2 visa, and you'll be back in the States. That covers seminars and things like that. We're like, okay, great. So we got back to London, straight on the US Embassy website, applying for a B1 visa. Get to the embassy and, wait there for 5 hours or something like that. You get to like the final person who decides.
The final boss.
Yeah, at the desk. And, you're all excited, and you've been sitting all day. It's like stewing up, and he's like,
we were so sure.
You've applied for the wrong visa. And you're like, what? So we're like, well, can you tell us which one? And he's like, and they can't tell you because they're not lawyers. So they don't, they can't get sued and things like that. So they can't advise. So like, it must be the B2 visa. So a month later, we applied for a B2 visa, and we got the consulate visit. This time we had like all the proof of like all the workshops we had booked out, and all the revenue we were generating, for the United States of America. It was going to be great. All this cash flow we're bringing in to the US, showing that like, we are providing value to this country. So we're just like passing off all this information at the desk like this, all these receipts and ticket sales and things like that. And he goes, hang on, you're going to be earning like income while you're there? And we said, yeah, like, look at all this. And he said, sorry, you've applied for the wrong visa.
You can't do that on the B2.
You can't earn money. These seminars are literally like a business visa.
We were so proud. We were like, look.
So then we got all this money. We're like slowly taking it back, going, no, actually we're not. It's it's just
too late.
It's too late. And that's a lesson of like you only present things when you're asked for them.
Well, and also desperation is never a good thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing good happens when you're desperate.
And we were desperate to get back
desperate.
here. Yeah. And in looking back, like I said, connecting the dots backwards, we weren't ready to be here then,
No way.
But we were sure we were, So that was like this heartbreaking moment. He did give us like a little inkling. He didn't say directly, but he was like, you need to apply for a performance visa. And we didn't know what that was.
We had to look that up, yeah.
So the problem with being denied visas into the US is that once you're denied a visa, you're blacklisted from the country until you apply for the correct one. So that means no visitors visas, every visa that you apply for, you have to go to the consulate to have an interview and things like that. And because you've been denied a certain visa, now you're under the microscope for other ones, so they'll really like look at the evidence hard. So we saw a few other immigration lawyers, found out which performance visa he was like implying. And it was the O1 visa, which is alien with extraordinary ability. So it's like people like entrepreneurs, like probably like Elon Musk or
cool name.
Pretty awesome.
I know. I'm quite proud.
or like Elon Musk or like elite athletes, like Messi would have just come in on one of those, probably things like that. But the first three immigration lawyers we saw were like, that's impossible for you to get. Like you're not an entrepreneur. You're not an established entrepreneur. You're not an established athlete. So we went through this process of just after we got denied the visa, we're like, well, what can we do in this meantime? Like, we've got this time to figure this out. And I was like, what's our greatest advantage? And our greatest advantage to us was that we only need one visa. Everyone we know in the US, if they want to go to UK, Europe, Australia, they need multiple visas to like share their message to the world. You know what I mean? I've got an Australian passport and a UK passport, and Steph has a UK passport. So that covers us in the UK and all of Europe. So we're like, let's just do a tour of the world as we figure this out under phase 6. So we hosted workshops and seminars across the world for the next 2 years, you know, and then the world shut down like at the end of our tour of Australia. We finished our last seminar as the world shut down.
It was like a week before, where was it last one? Brisbane or something. Yeah. Brisbane shut down. Yeah, we got in there just in time. So then that became a little easier selfishly because now the world shut down, no one can get into the US. So it made my like desperation to be back in there a little easier to deal with, but not by much. But we ended up hopping around and just getting into every country that was the rules and regulations were like a gray area. So no one really figured anything out yet. So we left Australia to go back to London, hosted a few workshops there. Then London started to shut down. So we went to Mexico in the beginning of 2020. Yeah, 2020. 2021, sorry. It was the beginning of 2021. And we realized that, you know, that had run its course. Now that's kind of a distraction. Let's just not do anything except for focus on getting to the US. And this is where you need to be careful with your choice of words, because my literal statement was, I don't care if it takes us the next 12 months, we're getting into the US. And it almost took exactly 12 months to the day.
Wow.
You know,
so
specify.
if I'd said 6 months, it might have taken 6 months. But we found this lawyer called Jane Ogle, incredible lawyer. She had a 99% success rate in 2020. So, you know, some of the most difficult times in the US, like in terms of immigration approvals, and obviously the world was shut down too. And they built out, her and her team, especially Candace, built our case up. And then, you know, once you get approved for a petition, it doesn't mean that you're allowed to go in the US. Basically, once your petition has been approved, you have to go to the consulate, and they're the final decider. So Steph's got approved. She got her certificate back.
I got mine first, which was an interesting feeling because obviously I was super excited and happy, but I felt like I almost couldn't show it properly because we don't know if Jay is going to be approved. So it was like this, yay, oh, fuck. Like,
I had to provide, basically what happens is that if there's not enough evidence, or the US government feels like there needs to be more evidence on one particular individual, then they'll do like a request for more evidence.
I had like one more thing than him. It was like a blog article interview with a brand called Sweaty Betty in the UK. And that just like allowed me to get through that he didn't have. So.
Sweaty Betty.
Yeah, Sweaty Betty.
What a name.
So, I mean, my approval came a few months after. And
Fortunately.
then, but again, like you get the petition, that's great, but it's just like another step. It's like, okay, we can't celebrate too much because now we have to go to the consulate. They ultimately decide. So we had a retreat booked in, which we did. We did 2 sold out retreats in Costa Rica. That was sort of like our mini break. And that just let us really decompress and just go, it just felt like it was happening, like no matter what's happening. What happened before, everything felt right. We had the right connections. We'd built the case right. Everything just felt good. And, you know, the lawyers like to be realistic and say like, just, you know, there might be delays and things like that. So we ended up getting our last interview booked in like January, and our date was January 6th. Everything about that day was like perfect up until like we ordered an Uber, went downstairs. It was like this electric Jaguar, this guy and and it was just a normal Uber, you know what I mean? The guy in a suit.
Sign of a good day.
Yeah.
He drove us to the embassy. You know, there was no delays going in. The first guy at the desk, because you see one guy, he sees all the evidence, and then you go to the final guy.
I literally saw this one guy. We were sitting in front of him, and I can see him in his window, and I was like, he was like smiling at these people, and he was being really cool and jokey, and I was like, I want him. And we got him.
Yeah.
We got his window. There's like 10 windows. I was like, okay, this is good.
And there was a few things with our case where, you know, the lawyers were a little worried about delays and things like that. So they really prepared us before we went in. And, you know, something's happened sometimes where they ask for something else and then your approval will be later on. Very, very realistic. And then we get to the final desk and, you know, we had this letter from the US Army because they wanted us to come host a seminar at Fort Bliss. So that was like our wild card, you know, it was like a sealed US government letter. So if like there was anything else, it's just be like, drop that on the table. And
he was a young football guy, ex-football player.
Yeah, so I was literally like speaking to him about, you know, because Collective had just started. We're good friends with Jay Hills. And he'd actually been an ex-football guy and he'd bust up his knee. So we're just talking about like our
just
movements
at the window.
and, you know, the stuff they're doing at Collective, you know, this new place that's opening in Austin. And, you know, Jay Hills is like one of the top athletic performance coaches for the NFL and Austin, Texas University. So
he was like,
great.
yeah, check out your stuff.
So so basically, like I have this US government envelope ready, like I've like got it holstered ready to like unload that when it's like unsure. And he goes, so what's your Instagram page? And I was like, oh, it's Phase 6. So we can only see him from the side. So he like does this, and you can see him like, you know, the following count's like up. So he looks up and just goes, and he just does this. And I was like, don't you want to see my letter from the US Army? And he goes, no, you've been approved.
He was like, you guys are good. We were like,
So Steph and I couldn't sit. So we're just like under the counter, like we didn't want to like jump around. So we're just like this.
I was like, don't speak.
Like, don't say a word. And we just like went sideways to the elevator and just like backed up against the elevator. And then there was this other excited guy just been approved for a visa as well. And
we
he
like,
started talking
he
started talking about how like I don't think he applied for the right visa, but he was telling us all this, and I was just like, don't say a word because
like
these
cameras.
elevators definitely recorded. So we just stayed quiet. We didn't, you know, so
silent all the way out. And then I think we cried when we walked past. Did we cry?
Yeah, I
we
mean,
cried.
as you come out of the U.S. consulate, like there's literally a big United States of America, you know, consulate.
Chills.
You see the flag, which is something that's been ingrained in my brain since a child. You know, there's actually one just flying out outside this window.
What was quite beautiful though is the last time we got denied, we walked out the same route, and there's like this bridge, and the River Thames is just there. And last time we went there to just cry because we were so upset. But this time we were like crying with like happiness. So it was like full circle. It was pretty emotional time.
Yeah, but like you guys said, there is no plan B for us. It's as extreme as victory or death. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if we had not got that one, we would still be trying to get there now.
Yeah, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because it is that extreme, because I know we would never feel fulfilled no matter where we were, you know, like it'd always be a what if. And I could never live with myself with a what if. It has to be what makes me happy. You know what I mean? And that this is being here in this country is my ultimate happiness.
Did you guys feel that extreme level of focus and commitment to the mission of getting to the US and launching Phase 6 rewire you guys in any ways and start to like bring a new level of performance that you guys were starting to put out through your content?
It's just a matter of like resilience.
Yeah.
We've lived on both sides. We've been homeless basically, you know what I mean? So it doesn't scare us. And like we lived through that, and we were happy together during those periods, you know.
I think it definitely made us want to like be as good as we can. Like it made me feel personally that I wanted to be the best at what I could do because I've made it here. So obviously I want to provide, like I want to just reach my peak as well and just make sure that I'm just to be grateful for that, even just to make sure I'm putting in as much effort as possible, not just getting here and being like, okay, I'm here, I'll just chill.
Never take it for granted.
Yeah.
We've got to get another one soon.
Yeah, because when you arrive here, it doesn't matter what we've done, because going through that visa process is like, I would imagine as extreme as like, you know, being put on trial, because you've got to provide the evidence, and then it's up to those person to decide that you are in fact valuable to this country.
Well, and also you're learning as you do this whether you are valuable or not.
Right.
Like, because you're literally being asked, like, what can you provide? And it's like, fuck, what can I do? So it actually gives you a clearer vision of what you're going to be doing when you get here. You know, like, this is how I can provide for people.
Yeah, I think people would complain a lot less if they had to go through, like, if you're an American citizen, had to go through the immigration, because trust me, there's not anything to complain about with it if you're like actively pursuing the opportunities that this country presents, and they're everywhere if you're looking for them. You know what I mean? But when you get here, it doesn't matter what we've done now 4 years prior. You're ground zero again.
Ground zero.
Right.
So now you have to prove it all again. And that's just another challenge that we're happy to take on. But it's just like, it just builds up this resilience. And because we've been from like literally homeless to, you know, abundance, either or, we're completely happy together living in that, you know? So nothing scares us. That side of things doesn't scare us.
That's another important thing as well. We both were in it at the same time. Like, I didn't come along halfway through when he'd made it, or he didn't, vice versa. We were there from the ground, from the bottom.
You know, even when like people closest to you are doubting, like, hey, when's this going to kick off? And, you know, you're just trying to articulate the vision and like, just give us time, you know, and then people going, well, when are you getting into the US? And, you know, all these questions all the time. Had Steph and I not been on the same page throughout,
because it's triggering,
and believe in each other, you know, there might have been doubt from the outside, but there was never any doubt from within us.
Yeah, like imagine, for example, my parents being like, when's it gonna happen? Like, you've said this for like a year, and what if I started to be like, yeah, Jay, when is this gonna happen? Like, are we still doing this? Can you imagine like the different dynamic that would be, instead of me like holding true and being like, just let us do it.
Yeah.
Like, we'll tell you when we're going.
Right.
kind of thing.
The right partner just builds up so much more confidence that you would ever have on your own.
Oh, for sure.
And one of the things that you touched on that I wanted to ask you, you both have entered the country in such an interesting time. And I think there's a good argument to be made that the soul of the U.S. is like actually dying in some ways right now, where like you will see people burning American flags. You'll see people that are trying to leave this country. So I probably know what your answer is going to be, but as two people that have worked so hard to get on the soil of the U.S., what is your take on that after seeing so many other countries compared to what you're experiencing in the U.S.?
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, so we don't really see that side of things because for me growing up, the idea, you know, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the U.S. So for like a good 10 years, I used to sit in front of the TV watching Ghostbusters like every single day. And the image of New York used to just like, I used to be obsessive about it, you know, the imagery of like the United States. And there's even like a soundbite from a movie that I used to watch, which we watched recently. I was like, fuck, that's what I used to listen to every day. And it was, this soundbite is like, your success is an American dream come true. And that's like ingrained in my brain of like me wanting to live like the American dream with the person I love, you know? So, like I said, I think a lot of people would be a lot less distracted by what's wrong in this country if they had to leave the country and go through the immigration process like we did, you know.
I think also living in Europe or the UK, especially for more than like a couple of weeks or a month, you'd be a lot more grateful for what you have over here. And it's not even like the US, right? It's a type of individual that chooses to see the bad in whatever they choose. That is everywhere. Like, people complain everywhere. It's not just a US thing. But I definitely think because you guys have so many states, you do, maybe, I don't want to generalize, but maybe there's less of an urge to like go further out to see like real differences in like cultures. Like, I mean, even the UK has a massively different culture to here. Like, it's crazy. But so yeah, maybe like there's more ignorance around it.
Or romanticizing
other places,
especially Europe. Like, I mean, Paris is being exposed right now, you know, like
I mean, it's grimy.
How bad it is. But it's always been like that.
Yeah,
know?
it's always
just
been like that.
romanticizing it's the grass is greener type thing. You know what I mean? But there's as far as I'm aware, there's no country on earth. Australia's not like this. England's not like this. If you wanted to be someone or make something, you know where to go. So like if you want to make movies, I'm not sure where that is now, but like, 20 years ago or 10 years ago even, you'd go to LA and you'd try to make it there. You want to be an actor, things like that. You want to be an entrepreneur, you come to Austin. You want to be like, a rap musician, you might go to Atlanta. You want to be in Wall Street, you go to New York. And in America, you have basically everything that the other world has in one fucking country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you really want to experience London, you could probably go to Seattle. You know what I mean? It's a similar type of,
It rains all the time.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to go to Australia, if you want to see like Australia type of thing, San Diego, I thought I was in Australia sometimes.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Eucalyptus trees everywhere, the beach is there. There's also like the Big Sur, which is kind of like a place called Noosa in Australia. There's no place like New York. There's no place like Austin. Where everyone's coming together and connecting and opportunities are abundant if you're looking for them, if you're doing the right thing. I think people just...
people just need to focus on their own growth. Like there's no point complaining about something you can't change. Fair enough, like if you have the ability to change something, please go ahead. But a lot of it is stuff that
you can't do anything about.
They can't really do much about. So
people worry about politics and things like that all the time. There isn't one, and no matter what country we've been in, no matter what's happening with the political situations there, it has never affected anything that we've done. You know what I mean? So why would we try to control something that we can't? You know what I mean? So we've only just focused on ourselves, and a lot of people use the excuse, well, I want to stay informed. Well, that may be great, but it'll also provide a distraction too.
Well, and also make sure you're getting the right information, right? But we won't go into
I loved the idea of the American dream in the United States since a kid, and I just, like I said, I think if people understood what it takes to get into this country, legally and having to prove that to the U.S. government would make people a lot more grateful for the country they're in, and maybe there'll be a lot less like infighting. It's apart from marrying my wife Steph, rehabilitating Tank, our XL bully. Shouldn't have mentioned him.
No.
Is he a screensaver? He's a screensaver on your phone, right? Yeah.
Shit.
Don't make me go now.
Yeah, so sorry.
You're good. Take your time.
Meeting my wife Steph and Tank, being recognized by the U.S. government as a person who belongs here is one of my greatest achievements.
Wow. Why was Austin the right place for you guys to settle down long term?
So it wasn't originally.
No, it wasn't. We actually said the second time we came here, because we used to train at another gym and stuff, we were like, we're never living here. We'll never come back here. We had a bad experience
back in 2019, which we won't go into.
Individuals. And
it was a very different place to what it is now.
But then when we came this time, we went straight into San Diego. So we stayed there for a little bit. And then we went, the plan was to go to Colorado.
We got told for 3 years that, sorry, Joseph, I love you, brother.
Yeah, we
got told for 3 years that Castle Rock was an up-and-coming place. And when we got there, like, it wasn't our
It wasn't for us.
We spent like 24 hours looking for a gym to train at, and we couldn't find one. You know what I mean?
So we were like, this isn't our place. So we had an Airbnb for 3 more nights, and we cut it short. We're like, fuck it. We need to go see people we know. Like, we wanted to reconnect with Tim and Kim and Shane Hines and just Jay Hills. We wanted to go see Collective because it was just being like built then, and we're like, fuck it, let's just leave early. So we got on a flight straight to Austin, not thinking we would stay here. We just wanted to visit people and like rekindle friendships and stuff because it had been so many years. And then we realized it was pretty cool. And then we met some awesome people like Khalil, which Kimmy introduced us.
We actually stayed right by South Congress because that was the closest place to Collective.
Oh yeah, right next to Collective. It was like a 5 steps.
We could see Equinox from our window, so we could just see people's feet all the time. It wasn't very private at all. But so we went the first day. We went straight to Collective. Alexis, who's now our physical therapist, she was the first person who came over, and I was like, "Is Jay Hills here?" And we must have looked like crazy people because like we just traveled like 6 different time zones in over a week ago, and now we're in 3 different states. And Jay Hills came out, and it was great to see him. We hadn't seen him since 2019. And you guys know the place was just incredible. All the NFL guys used to train down there at that time, so the energy was like through the roof. And we only intended to stay for like a week or 2. So Jay Hills just opened the place up to us, and whatever you need. And then we reconnected with our friends TK Stretching, who's Kimmy is like a healer. She works on Khalil and everything like that, and us now. And they focus on fascia stretch therapy as well. And she's very intuitive. So all week she was like, I need to introduce you to Khalil. I need to introduce you to Khalil. The funny part about that is we obviously were staying right near Sun Life at the time. And I'm okay to say this because I've told Khalil already. We walked past Sun Life and we're like, $20 for a smoothie. I'm never paying $20 for a smoothie. But this was the paradigm of like, that was not the
Well, we were
cost,
in lack mindset still as well. We'd just like
you don't pay
everything.
$20 for a smoothie in London or Australia. You know what I mean? So knowing now like the thought that's gone into it, the ingredients, things like that, I will pay $20 for a smoothie.
Now we're there every day.
So the weekend came, and she took us down to Sun Life, and then she introduced us to Khalil, and after meeting Khalil, we're like, we're fucking staying.
There was just so many cool people that we were just coming across, and we're like, okay, let's just see her. Again, we're pretty easy and go with the flow. Like we never say we're going to settle down here. We just kind of go where it feels right. And when we get sick of it, we just move on. But so yeah, we were both up for just continuing to unfortunately get Airbnbs for a long time.
Not that long.
Was it not?
Yeah.
It was only a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but
all rolls into one.
Up until that point, we'd been staying in Airbnbs for about 6 years by that point. So we moved into an apartment. Again, we were in a situation where we're having to sleep on the floor.
It was very rushed.
We had nothing. Again,
we wanted to move in on the day, and it was 6 p.m. And I was like, you need to get us in.
Yeah.
Now.
So it's just another situation, but I don't think anything happened. I mean, I don't know about the other states, but from visiting them, it doesn't seem like things happen so fast as they do here.
We didn't get the same feel in California, and we love California, but there was no one even like looks at you,
Right,
like,
totally. They're almost too relaxed out there.
Okay.
And the people you do want to connect with, they've been living there a long time and they get harassed a lot and things like that. So they have certain places they go, or they don't go out at all. As you guys know, like just sitting out Sun Life, you'll meet like people you would never even dream that you'd be able to meet just sitting there having a smoothie. So there's something magnetic about this place that is undescribable until you live here. And as long as you take advantage of the opportunities, then you're going to get somewhere fast. If you bring value to people, you're a good person. And you have good intentions, so.
Yeah, it's almost like the serendipity of Sun Life encapsulates the serendipity of this city in general.
Yeah.
And I think very similarly to you, like I was in New York for 4 years, Harry was in Boston for a long time, and it's like finance, energy, people making money, it can really pull you in. But it's like you're kind of encapsulated in this like concrete jungle, so you're missing certain elements.
Right.
Colorado, Denver, it's beautiful, scenery. You miss the energy.
Right.
California, beautiful as well. Ocean, miss the energy. Austin, it's like it brings all these things together where it's like there's opportunity, there's health and wellness, there's gyms, there's incredible people. Like it really has everything, and it really shouldn't be that way because you're just like in the middle of Central Texas. It's so fucking hot,
and you don't have the beach, you don't have the ocean,
but it's incredible.
But it's great.
Yeah,
people who like this is how crazy this place is. People who are naturally attracted and wanting to live by the ocean will give that up to live in 100-degree heat.
Yeah, that's like
us.
us. We wanted to live by the ocean for sure, and now we're like,
The trade-off's real. It's like, living by the ocean is one of the best things. I mean, it's so relaxing. It's like almost where our frequency is supposed to be, but you choose to live in the middle of nowhere, Texas.
Yes.
And that's how impressive this place is. Because if you had asked like, 2-year-old me who was obsessed with the United States, you're going to live in Texas when you're in America. Like I'd be like I'm not going to Texas.
Yeah,
it would have been like New York or something like
100%.
that. But here we are. You just gotta go with the flow.
Yeah. Jay, we had a conversation on Saturday and you brought up a term that I've still been thinking about. I was saying to you, we've said this to you 30 times, and a lot of people say this to you, that a lot of people think that you're the owners of a lot of these brands that you're affiliated with, which is like Vivo, Ketone IQ. There's a ton of Noble now. And I would imagine that's probably one of like the highest honors and compliments that you can get. It's a sign that you're doing your job so well.
For sure.
But you said that there's people don't understand there's a difference between a content creator and an influencer.
Yeah.
So maybe we could dig into that. And what did you mean by that on the phone? We were catching up.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is just speaking from my experience. So like, this is just my opinion before any,
Where you get the
get attacked by an influencer. But as far as I'm aware, and you know, I study this a lot. An influencer typically will post a video and they might get 50,000 followers and 1 million views, but they don't actually know why they got that. That, you know, there's the difference between a content creator is that if they get 50,000 followers and 1 million views, they understand why, because they have a formula that's created that result, you know. So, and that's how content creators work with brands for the long term, rather than influencers who might work for a brand for a month. You know what I mean? Because the ROI isn't as intense as someone who's focusing on actual content creation. And that's not like bad mouthing one or the other. You know what I mean? Like everyone is doing their own thing, but I think with content creators, there's a lot more long term partnerships and strategies going on. There's formulas that are created. They're obsessed with like the creation side of things. And I guess influencers are too, but
the brands can really rely on the content creators to consistently come up with good quality content. Whereas influence, it could be a bit hit and miss. Like, oh, that was good, that performed well. Oh, next one's a bit shit.
It might just be like like typically like an influencer would just like post a photo of a product, or they'll do a workout, just a typical workout video, you know, things like that. Whereas, you know, the stuff that we do and why we get hired long term with brands and work with them and have the perception, like you mentioned, of, you know, us actually owning the companies, is because we build long term relationships and long term strategies in terms of organic growth. So we don't pay for ads or things like that since we've had phase 6. So we've always focused on organic growth and like never buying followers and things like that, which seem to have died down a little bit now. It used to be a problem before, which is why the US government doesn't take into account Instagram followers, by the way,
really?
Because you can buy them.
Yeah,
so
interesting.
That kind of fucking pisses me off.
Took ours into account.
But the guy at the end did take that into account because he was a young guy. But, you know, just a point on the immigration thing, the immigration rules and regulations don't take into account like social media and the internet, because it's not even written in to the laws. You know what I mean? It's not updated. So, yeah, in our time frame, we've only worked with, you know, we've always wanted to have long-term partnerships, and we've worked with like four brands in that time, whereas some in 5 years, and you know, a lot of people that we know who are influencers, again, nothing wrong. It's just, but they might do a different brand every month, you know, for that 5 years. And what that does is that doesn't create trust or a relationship with those brands. And they kind of see that as well.
Well, and also it doesn't create trust with the following, like the people who, you know, watch your content and do go with your advice. How are they going to trust you if every week you're just getting a new product? So like we have fortunately gained a lot of trust from our people who follow us, because we have been so slow to get into deals, apart from with you guys. We just love you guys. But with everyone else.
You guys are the quickest. Like,
yeah, for sure.
But like
we can tell.
Even with Vivo Barefoot, and that comes with experience as well. Like when we're just starting, we just wanted to be really careful, and we wanted to build phase 6
Integrity
as a legitimate brand. And if you just started promoting products every month, you wouldn't be taken seriously, because people recognize that is just like a cash grab, either subconsciously or consciously, you know. So, and then when you start paying for ads, even if people start to follow you, they're kind of like the following you'll receive are just people who want to buy that product, and they're not invested in your brand. You know what I mean? So you might have 1 million followers, but you've paid for ads, you've gained a following, and now, you know, that person might just jump on the next brand. So we build a following organically, and for Vivo Barefoot, for example, when they reached out to us, we started talking about a partnership. We couldn't actually wear their shoes at the time because they didn't work for our style of training. So every time we moved in them, like they would catch or things like that. They would stop our movement. They weren't particularly a good design, 4 years ago. So we just started to talk, just build a relationship. No money involved, just talking, no promotion. They sent us like a few shoes to try out, like research development, things like that. So we started to get really in depth. They brought us on, brought us in with all that, like these new designers that they had hired. So there were people from like Vans and Adidas, Nike, a few others, and like just picked our brains. And then they released this shoe called the Primus Light Knit recently, which I like to think we helped with, but it works perfectly with our training now. So then now you can start to talk, okay, that does work for us. It is something that will provide value to not only ourselves, but our audience. And we can authentically speak about it because we can't do it any other way. If we don't actually use it, we don't think it's going to provide value. It's not worth us even mentioning it.
That's the thing as well. Like when we first show, brands that we're working with, like Ketone IQ or Vivo Barefoot, in the very beginning, people are just like, why are you guys now just selling things? But we're literally, like, honestly, just giving you this, this education because we find it useful.
Right.
And we're like, if you want it, you can have it too. Like, this is what helps us. Here it is. We're proud to promote it because it's what we're actually using. It's not just something for a paycheck. Like, we will never post about anything that we don't use daily.
And you guys,
which is just the best philosophy to go by.
So it's just
like, this is what I use, and
like
if it works for you.
You guys
you
know
can't
we wear
argue with that.
Barefoot shoes every day, and that
Apart
is
from me in the summer.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vivo.
they're all right. But like, and that's not saying like everyone needs to wear fucking barefoot shoes. Like not like movement purist or anything like that. I just choose.
Yeah, you don't preach it. You just it's what we do, and if you want to do it too.
Yeah, no, like. Just authentic, and that's how we've managed to build these long-standing relationships with brands and people within those brands, So, that would be like the difference between the two. And maybe there are like influencers out there, but I think there's a distinct difference between an influencer and a content creator,
Definitely. I would love to get into some of your guys' fitness tips and just movement and nutrition tips too, because there's so much value in what you guys do, and it's so different because most people are just going into the gym, picking up the barbell, dumbbell, and just doing the standard compound movements. But when I walk past you guys are doing all sorts of creative flows, and it looks amazing. But then it also seems like you guys are prioritizing different things when it comes to longevity and actually being able to like feel good in your own body instead of just like, pumping weight to pump weight. So would love to just understand your guys' philosophy a little bit around health, nutrition, all that.
I mean, me personally, I train for strength and mobility. So my goal is to just be as strong as I can be while staying mobile and flexible. I think that's like the ultimate strength.
The holy grail.
I don't care what anyone says. Like, if you can use your muscles in all angles, in every way, that's just like perfect for me. So that's what I go for. So yeah, I do lift heavy, but then I supplement that. And I also do movements that are strength and mobility simultaneously. So I don't have to, because a lot of people think you have to like set aside separate time for like mobility stuff. But I like to just have that as part of my main workout. So whether that's with weights or without weights, I'm still working on the strength of my body and the mobility at the same time. So, I mean, we both do that, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we both like to simultaneously train both. And conditioning comes with that as well, obviously.
I mean, a lot of the inspiration is for the movements come from martial arts. So like they're heavily stemmed in martial arts. And what we wanted to do, because we're so inspired by that, is just bring that to the forefront so people utilize that who might not necessarily have thought about using that in the first place because it was so specific to martial arts.
And segregated. It was like everyone had their group, right?
So like adding a little more like strength and mobility and tension behind these martial arts movements then translates over to multiple sports and practices, you know what I mean? And people who don't even do sports or martial arts, you know what I mean? Like just being able to move correctly. And martial arts has always been ahead of the game. You know what I mean? We haven't invented any of these movements. We've just, we've just like...
We've tweaked them and made them like available to everyone,
right?
Pretty much. Like some of them can, like the warm-ups in martial arts, I've witnessed a little messy, a little
old school.
A little old school, like a bit of jumping jacks here and there and stuff. So, we've just, after doing it for a little bit, like doing martial arts, mixed martial arts, we kind of realized what they could benefit and how, these movements would actually work really well for everyone else, and sports or not sports, like the average gym goer, as you say. So yeah, we just like to refine it, make it neater, make it more beneficial, like move slower with more intent, more purposeful movement instead of just like rushing through stuff and just like flapping your arms around and
Yeah, because when we first started, like I said, it was very much like just movement based. So there was no speaking, no one's personality. You didn't need to like express or show your personality. It was just like how cool you looked moving, basically. And a lot of the times when we went to these certifications and we were meeting people at the time with a much bigger influence or audience than us, they would try to do things like a push-up and they could only get to half a rep and then they'd be out.
But
then on their page, they'd be showing that, telling people that you need to do this, but they couldn't do it themselves. You know what I mean? So, and the way they got away with that is that they moved really fast. And when you move really fast, you can hide like poor movement and kinks in the chain. So what we decided to do is like, okay, the one way not to fake it is to do it as slow as possible. So we did everything slow because if anyone tried to imitate the movements, they would not only build like a massive amount of strength and mobility trying it, they would also build the correct movement pattern and posture. But also if they tried to move, if they were trying to fake it, they, fast, they wouldn't be able to do it.
I think moving slow like was how I got such a strong foundation. For sure. That definitely like set me up to be able to train how I can train now instead of going backwards and having to do it later. But
so the more you train like slow, like the expression slow is smooth is fast. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
That's basically what we do. And we implement a lot of unconventional tools, kettlebells, things like that. But I've actually started implementing a few conventional tools as well, like just like the back squats and
mix it up
and trap bar deadlifts. From knowledge that I've gained from people here and that's what we're always trying to do is like gain knowledge from people smarter than us, and then implement that into what we do. So one thing we always teach at our workshops and seminars is like we're just providing you with the best information that we have available to us right now. This isn't like a script. Like what we want is to provide you this knowledge and then you adapt it and make it uniquely your own and then pioneer something yourself. Like what we say isn't gospel because there's too many people within this movement world that become movement messiahs or they feel like they've like saved people and then they almost become like this, messiah figure to these people. And we just never wanted that. In order for you to evolve and pioneer your own journey,
you have to question.
Then you need to always question something regardless of how much respect you have for that person because that's how things progress.
It's like this ever-changing philosophy and what you're teaching in a year will be tweaked from what it is now, and that's beautiful. It should be a progression. It shouldn't be stagnant.
Look what we used to know 20 years ago. It doesn't make like a lot of that has changed, so information is always evolving and that's where like the young people come in. Those young people are going to come in, take the information, they might feel that it's out of date and they'll adapt it to what's current to them, and then it'll go on and go on. But there's a lot of philosophies and methods that people get kicked out of for questioning. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. So
I think we just do what feels good for us personally, and if we get results from it, then we'll tell people about it. It's kind of how it goes.
We did get the results though as well because like our background isn't in originally, movement as such. Like Steph has a background in martial arts and track running and things like that. I wasn't really, I was just obsessed with watching movement and things like that. And then we just learnt from all these different individuals and then, stirred it up all in a pot and took what was useful, disregarded what was useless, and then made it uniquely our own.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
With like a squat or a deadlift. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strength coaches that are like, oh, you should be doing those movements as explosive as possible.
Yeah.
Do you take that really slow approach, even with a movement like a deadlift or a squat, like really taking your time to get through on the way down and the way up?
Yeah.
I mean, on the way down, I go slow, and then I explosively.
You explode on the way up.
I like that.
Yeah, it depends on like what I'm trying to do. I don't really think there's a right or wrong.
No, it's your goals, right? What you're aiming for.
So I think in the beginning, like, you know, tempo really helps in the beginning with anything when you're first starting out with athletic performance, you know, to build up that discipline to not rush through things, because there's going to be points in the movement that fucking suck. And anytime something sucks, you want to like rush out of it. So that, like, building up that discipline of tempo, but once you've like been training for a few years or even like 10 years, you sort of had that discipline ingrained in you that you know that's going to benefit you by, you know, going down at a certain and staying in that certain position and then, you know, doing that thing. So I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer. It just depends on what we do at the time.
Got it.
Yeah.
What would you guys describe your 3 biggest, if someone's listening, just trying to make some marginal improvement, what like 3 pieces of advice would you give them, whether it's nutrition or movement?
I would say video yourself doing your movement. That's the one.
Huge.
Yeah, that's what I did when I first started out. Thank goodness. It's super embarrassing, but that's how you get to see the connections, and that's how I built like a mind-body connection, because I knew exactly where I was at a certain point in time, or train in front of a mirror or something for a bit, but definitely record.
Also, like, train the same thing like over and over and over again. Like,
Consistency.
There's a lot of movements that I wanted to become really good at, especially in the beginning, and I would simply train them for like 3 months. And then once I felt like it was built in muscle memory, I'd move on to the next. So a lot of the time it's about patience and consistency as well. You know, that's the biggest thing in the beginning of starting out. You just have to be patient and consistent, because it doesn't happen as fast as you think. But then once it does, like, it progresses really fast at the same time, you know, once you do build in that patience and consistency as well.
I think number 3 would have to be how you fuel your body. Like, for me personally, I wouldn't put in anything that doesn't benefit myself in any way. That's just one thing I have. Like, why would I? To be honest. So just fueling your body, because obviously everyone goes on about what looks they want from working out and stuff, and majority of it does come down to the food you eat, obviously. So yeah, just keeping it clean and just being like aware, or just even being aware of what you're putting in your body.
Right.
Just to start there.
Yeah.
Like, let's just like read some labels, you know, just keep it simple. But just once you're connected with your body, you connect your mind, and you just know what you're feeding yourself, and you just take more control of yourself.
I mean, a bonus point would be like focus on like self-development as well. So like reading books that aren't even necessarily technically related to like fitness or anything like that. Like things like Think and Grow Rich and Psycho-Cybernetics, all these books that, Power of the Subconscious Mind, all these books, if you read them while they're like about a different subject, they connect the same way as when you're training. So the most disciplined people, and probably the most successful people in business, most of the time have a great connection with physical fitness as well, because they basically work exactly the same. If you have the discipline, you know, to look after your body, you have the discipline, resilience to like, you know, become a successful entrepreneur as well. And then when rough times do come up, you'll relate them either way. You know, I got through this on this side, so this part's going to be easy. Like, you kind of get used to of what the journey is going to be, because there's nothing more powerful than putting your body through like a physical demanding session.
I love that you mentioned Think and Grow Rich and Power of Subconscious Mind, because those books are just about 100 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter.
We
could read those in the year 2500, and the principles will still be just as relevant then as they are now, because they're literally timeless principles that everyone should read.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, if you listen to any successful entrepreneur in any industry, they're probably like the 2 or 3 books: Psycho-Cybernetics, Power of Subconscious Mind, and Think and Grow Rich are like the 3 staples that pretty much everyone mentions.
Yeah, especially when you're going through like any kind of doubt or anything. I read The Power of the Subconscious Mind every morning. I just pick a chapter, and then after I've been through it a few times, I would just kind of open it and just like read whatever I opened it on. And it really kept it fresh, especially when we're working on the visa and stuff, just so you don't lose sight of like, universal law and like we are attracting what we want to us, whether we like it or not.
Law of vibration. Attraction.
There's like this mental masturbation with books where it's like, oh, I'm going to read like 50 or 100 books a year.
300 books a year.
Yeah.
It's like,
Harry and I have been talking about this a lot, like cherry picking the few books that you've learned so much from and going back and rereading them.
Yeah.
Like War of Art is something that I just keep going back to or turning
literally
pro.
just bought that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to take you like 2 hours.
Art of War, is it?
There's Art of War by Sun Tzu and then War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
Oh,
We'll get that too.
I'll have to buy
the
that.
War of Art's good too.
Yeah.
Nice.
You should read both. And the War of Art is all about like the resistance that creators face when they're trying to accomplish their goal.
Amazing.
And he was a writer that's written a ton of books. He was a Marine, and he kind of gives like, he identifies resistance and teaches you how to overcome resistance.
Wow.
But that for us is just like, it's going to take me 2 hours to read this thing, and it's going to refresh all the principles and the characteristics that I want to have as a creator. So I'll just keep going back to that versus like reading something just to say I'm reading it when I'm not even really retaining what's on the page.
That's
it. Yeah.
That's cool. That soundbite has to be out there too. What'd you say? Something, mental masturbation?
Mental masturbation. Yeah.
There's too much of that
There's
out
so
there.
much of it.
Yeah, like it's excessive, right?
They
It's
just want to hear themselves talk about
How
things
many
that are
read 300
useless.
books a year. You know what I mean? Like you said, it's the same
just
as
slow down a bit.
it's being consistent on a movement as well. Like it might take you 3 months to master a movement, but once you have it, it's a skill. It's the same. You might read 5 books every 3 months, but then you can go back and study it and really ingrain it into your mind. You know what I mean? So yeah, 300 books is a bit excessive.
If you've got the time, why not?
Yeah.
But,
I'm not sure how much information you would retain reading 300 books a fucking year.
I don't think I've read 300 books my whole life. So.
No.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say what I love about you guys is like the consistency of the philosophies in your life just trickle through every area. Or it's like slow and deliberate. Okay, like how do you guys, but it's a position of strength. Like it shows like you guys have these philosophies that you operate under and you're going to do them, whether it's using it to make your body stronger, doing it to make your business stronger. You're just going to use these philosophies that work because they transcend more than just one thing.
Yeah, I mean, patience is the ultimate weapon you can have in your
and
arsenal.
acceptance.
Yeah, and like I said, you can only ever connect the dots backwards. I think like Steve Jobs said that. So there's a lot of times where things happen and you're sure they're going to happen, like 100%. When we first got denied the visas, the day before I got the United States flag tattooed on me so I could see it. And that was my representation of like, this is going to work. But in actual fact, it was tattooed on me so I could look at it every day and realize that's still the goal. So I got like the US flag and unite in there because, that's obviously within the United States. That's a word that really stuck out. It's like unite because I've always loved united in the flag, in the name of the United States of America. It's really powerful. And that was to remind me of our mission and objective was to get here no matter what, So, and it's just about patience. We always have patience and things happen exactly how they're meant to.
Exactly.
Connecting the dot backwards, had we got to the US back in 2019, first off, we weren't financially stable enough in order for us to do what we wanted to do. And also the world would have fucking shut down during that time. And who knows what would have happened. We wouldn't be able to do the workshops and do the seminars and things like that. We wouldn't be able to connect with people and we might have had to leave, early or things like that. So there's all these little things you don't understand at the time.
And in our movement too, we weren't ready.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel I was good enough yet, to
looking back,
educate people.
In hindsight.
That's the thing too, right? It's like almost you needed time for your identity to catch up that you are this great creator and movement practitioner. And that's huge. Like the imposter syndrome is massive.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I totally wasn't ready to do a workshop back then because we had booked some before we got denied. So we pretty much sold them out.
We would have done it.
And we would have done it. Obviously, we would have done it fine. But I was like, I'm really not ready. Like my confidence is so low. Like I'm not ready to stand in front of a group. So yeah, it just worked out perfectly. Yeah. Timing.
Are there any things or projects that you have coming up on the horizon that you're both particularly excited about right now?
Oh man,
Certainly
so
is.
many. I mean, this is what I mean. This place just gets me so fired up because everyone's just like, how can I help? Or hey, I'm doing this, or I've got this really cool idea, or and some of them are bogus, which is fine, but the majority of them are by good people. You know what I mean? So phase 6 sort of evolved. If we go back to like phase 6 evolved from like that rock. There was going to be 6 people within phase 6 who all had different, one was a kettlebell specialist, one was a steel mace specialist, and one battle rope specialist and movement specialist. And there was another 2, I can't remember. But it evolved into like this curriculum around like, so basically now phase 1 is athletic performance. Phase 2 is nutritional optimization. Phase 3 is self-development. So reading books like that to become aware and understand the effect you have on not only the people around you, but the environment. And then once you have that awareness, we go into phase 4, which is ecology studies. So actually understanding like the effect we have on our environment, things like plastic waste and sustainable products and things like that. Phase 5 is content creation. So actually teaching people how to create content and monetize their personal brands so they can provide more value to the world, through that monetization as well. And then the last phase is phase 6, which is Unite for the Revolution, which is within our stamp, which is creating leaders and not followers. So like I said, we want people to follow our curriculum, but then go out there and make it better and make it uniquely their own, and however they adapt that is up to them, as long as they're providing value into the world. So the way we do that is by building our own location, which we're opening the content dojo, phase 6 content dojo. It'll be ready for us to film at the end of August, but it'll probably be like the grand opening will be around mid-October once we get everything sorted. And that will be a place simply just to shoot phase 6 content, host our certifications and events, other high-profile individuals, events and seminars as well, and film content for the brands that we work with as well. So the tagline is, "This ain't no fucking gym." So it's not a gym. It looks half like a functional training space, half a jiu-jitsu space or MMA space, but it's solely used for shooting content. And there's no gym memberships, there's no casual workouts and things like that. It's invite only. If you're attending a workshop and things like that, it's not even going to be marked on a map type thing. Yeah. It's like Fight Club, So yeah, that's coming up, and the reason we wanted to create that was because we've encountered a problem in every country that we've been to creating content that we need, which is all of our content is either shot in a gym or a jiu-jitsu academy. The problem being with that is we have to work around gym schedules and members, which is not bad-mouthing that. That's just, you have to have respect for that because that's the model that it creates.
Which we have done for 6 years.
The problem being is that there's got to be other people like us who need to film content regularly but don't have an active space to do that, So for us, it's literally just creating a house for ourselves, like for us to shoot our content regularly. So that's coming up in October.
And there's a shirts on policy at the gym, right?
Yeah, shirts. There'll be rules on the wall. It'll be shirts on and shoes off on the mat.
I like that.
Yeah.
Dogs are allowed.
Dogs are allowed.
Babies are not.
Babies, no.
No children.
No babies.
Those are some of the best rules I think you could possibly have for a gym.
Dogs, not
dogs
babies.
allowed, shirts on.
Yeah, so the whole place is going to be, we and again, it seems like it's happening so fast, but we've been planning this. We've had the concepts for 5 years.
Right.
So during the 5 years that we've been working on coming over here, the concepts changed and adapted. And then, we met up with, this is another cool story actually, that we were sitting down and we were just having like a little issue with filming because the timings are not ideal to film at. And, it was disrupting the members, which we didn't like doing. So Steph and I were just sitting at Sun Life again, and we're like, we just need to do it. We just need to build our content dojo and start filming content regularly so we can,
it was like the final decision. It was like, right, this is definitely where we need to go.
And literally 5 seconds after we finished the sentence, Shadi came around the corner, who's the founder of Path. It's like, "Hi guys, what are you talking about?" And then we're like, told him everything, and within 5 minutes he was like, "I'm in."
He literally sat down with us that day and was like, "I want to be involved."
Yeah.
We were like, okay, here's our
That's
guy,
so cool.
like who's going to take it to the next level. You know, we needed a lot of the times you don't really make it on your own. You always need like your mastermind alliance or like someone to come into your group to like give you that extra push or something that you can't provide, you know, or you're not good at. And he is that one person that we needed to like get this moving and actually get a physical space.
Yeah, once you're no longer once you're the smartest person in the room, it's time to leave the room. So we always try to surround ourselves with the smartest people in the room, who know much more than us. And we knew that getting here, like Steph and I had done everything else up until that point ourselves. Like it was just me and Steph. It was very isolating for both of us. It's like it puts a lot of pressure on to say that like everything was like, you know, rainbows and roses throughout that time is not true. You know, like it puts a lot of strain on both partners. You know, you get through it. When we got here, in order for us to progress to the next level, you have to ask for help. And that's not even just like asking for someone for help. You just have to put it out there. Like, we need help with
to
this.
find the right person.
And as long as, like I said, as long as your intentions are pure with your mission and you're a good person, that will be answered correctly. You know what I mean? And all this stuff has gestation periods. So it might take 8 months. It might take, you know, we don't know enough about it to understand how long that period takes. But as long as you keep on asking for it, it will eventually manifest itself in whatever form that is. And that
usually
just happens.
The bigger the ask, the longer it takes. Or usually how it
or your
tends to go.
perception on how big something is.
Right.
I love that piece of advice, that perception of just like put it out there, and you know the universe or you know the higher power or the people who are just sitting with you and want to see you succeed will answer some of those questions for you.
You have to know what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Most people don't. One of the things I wanted to say and just ask you guys before we get out of here was, one of the things I love about you guys is the fact that you can't say Jay without Jay and Steph. And I feel like you guys are just like such a great duo and such a great combo. And it's really rare to come by. I'm just curious, like, what have you guys learned from each other through this whole process of coming to the States, starting Phase 6, working on the content dojo? Like, what's the takeaway between the two of you guys?
That's a really good
question.
Are you going first?
I think so.
Okay.
I'll let you think.
I've already forgotten the question.
The pressure. We're a great duo. We need to know this. Okay.
Because I'm sure it's not easy building a business with your romantic partner as well, but there's also probably a lot of beautiful things that come with that too.
There's so many beautiful, I mean, the whole reason we chose to do this, like the reason why we got together to do this and not work with other people was because we wanted to spend more time with each other. So we didn't want to work with people and see others for like 5-6 hours a day and then just come home and see each other for like an hour or something.
I never understood that concept. I was spending 10 hours with people I didn't want to spend time with, and all I wanted to see was Steph. What the fuck am I doing here for 10 hours with these people?
So we were like, we're going to spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we've done it ever since. But I think my main takeaway from working with Jay is definitely his drive. Like, I mean, I'm driven, but until I met Jay, I don't think I'm as driven. Like, the constant pursuit of just like getting to this point or just creating like a really good life for ourselves. Because I can be a little laid back sometimes. I have the habit of getting a little comfortable. But then being around you always makes me like go, oh yeah, shit. No, we need to like continue growing and like just being the best that we need to be. So yeah, your drive and.
That's very sweet. I would have said the same about you.
Really?
Yeah, like in terms, I mean, Steph's drive, like in terms of like physical performance and everything like that, like Steph was miles ahead of me when I met, and I was like, "Fuck! If I want to be with Steph, I need to like up my game."
That's usually
a great motivator for a man.
Otherwise, she's going to be, you know, like 1,000 feet away. But no, like basically, Steph and I are a band, and we have different roles, and it wouldn't work without one or the other. You know, so
it'd be a totally different thing.
I always, it doesn't matter what each one of us does in the role, it wouldn't work unless we were together. You know what I mean? Her positivity and her grace in how she moves and presents herself is like is one thing that I always. She just inspires me every day. She's my greatest inspiration.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool when you meet two people that really grow and progress in that relationship together. And it's like, it's always cool when you meet couples that have actually been there from ground zero. I think that was the term that you used, to the success that you've had now. It's like you always will have that mutual respect for each other.
Exactly.
And you also wouldn't have had that success without both of you coming together too and supporting each other.
Yeah. I always knew I had to find the person that I was going to spend the rest of my life with in order for me to get to the US. Or achieve whatever I wanted. And then once I found Steph, like if you look at the time frame, even in terms of, 3 years of a visa process is a long time. When you're in it, when you're out of it, you're like,
it's like nothing.
Oh, it was only 3 years. You know what I mean? So Steph and I have been together. I think it'll be 8 years this September. If you look back at what like other people have achieved in that 8 years, like it's just growth. You know what I mean? Some people have stayed just in the same job in the same town.
Right.
And again, nothing wrong with that, but we're wanting to achieve, certain things.
It's showing what can be done in that time, I guess, if you want to.
And it would have never have worked without her, yeah.
Well, and also, sorry, just to add, I've always loved the United States, but I've never, I didn't like grow up. I didn't really know where I wanted to be. I was kind of just like, I'll just see where it feels good. But you made it happen, like us getting here,
That vision. Well, we have so much admiration for you guys and just are so pumped that we're all now on board together working for a similar mission with the product. So just so excited to work with you guys and share more memories down the road.
This is the best tasting protein. I'm not even saying it's the best tasting protein I've ever had.
100%.
And I really think you guys, you guys know you are onto something here. I didn't even see that at the bottom. Holy cow, this is good stuff.
I didn't see that.
You're right at the bottom. Do you like the chocolate, Jay, or the vanilla? Because I know Steph likes the vanilla.
So I actually haven't tried the chocolate yet. I've only tried
Have you not?
The vanilla, but the
chocolate's my favorite.
Yeah.
I like chocolate.
Yeah.
I did have it.
You had it.
Yeah, it's delicious.
I love them both, but I probably drink the vanilla more because chocolate I like later in the day.
Yeah.
Are we wrapping up?
Yeah, we are.
Let's do something quickly then.
Perfect.
We brought some gifts.
I brought a gift.
Wow.
This is going to go to good use right here.
I thought we could do like a little.
You saved it for a good time.
Yeah.
Yes.
A little
pick me up.
Little ketone IQ toast.
This is incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love guests that bring gifts. Thank you.
Great guests. You guys are welcome back anytime.
Yes.
So let's do a little toast.
Jose,
there.
You want one?
Yeah,
It's a ketone shot.
Rudy, you want one?
Helps your body burn fat.
Remember they I won't say what we'll say after, but so let's do a little toast here, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
To living the American dream.
Yes.
Fellowship and adventure.
Thanks,
Cheers, dudes.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh yeah.
I could just hear
The sound
We had a little gulp.
That was really good.
And it was on all of them.
Yeah, everyone held strong for that as well because these guys, this is pure ketones, so there's nothing else in it but ketones.
Function over flavor.
Function over flavor.
We probably should have given Jose a little heads up.
No, it's got a nice sweetness to it.
Yeah, you're going to be fueled all
That's the
night
monk
after
fruit.
that.
The monk fruit.
But in a good way, Jose. It's all good. It's like it's not like caffeine.
I have to take it out on my lady.
Yeah, we need these in the studio all the time.
Yes.
We really will be firing questions off with these shots. But again, like one of the cool, I think a great philosophy for business is to partner with people that you really trust and you care about too.
Absolutely.
So the fact that we've kind of gone from like that table outside of Sun Life to now working together officially is like, it's beyond
So
a dream
awesome.
for us. And we just appreciate you both so much.
Likewise. Thank you for having us. And we need to celebrate soon.
Steaks.
Get some steaks.
Yeah,
That's how we do it. So
We'll go to Pola's, get some steaks.
Yes.
awesome. Let's do it.
Thank you both. Appreciate you guys.
Thank
Thanks.
you.